Um, the anti-gunners try it. They try it nationally. They try it statewide.
Right.
They try it even locally at times. The flip over in Congress in 1992 was all because when the Republicans regained power in Washington, D.C., it was all over
Right.
Telling me what kind of gun I own, and that clip's got too many bullets in it. And you know, over and over and over, the NRA has always taken a position, and there's a lot of other organizations that are pro-gun also. But the NRA most specifically has said, we have rights. It's in the Constitution.
Right.
We would appreciate we'd appreciate it if you not mess with it. And groups keep trying it, and every time they try it, the NRA comes in, everybody gets fired up, and those people get punished. They get put out of office. And I hope the people in Tallahassee and Jacksonville, Florida will, as they say, take up arms and get them a new mayor.
I'll never understand how gun rights became a conservative issue instead of a liberal. I'll never understand why liberals. I mean, usually it's up to liberals to step up to the plate.
I see your logic.
And defend
everything's okay with anything.
Well,
right?
I mean,
liberal philosophy.
It has been liberals who have had to defend the First Amendment, and all the rest of the Bill of Rights, more or less. Usually, you see it's a left-wing group that's out there defending it. I will never understand how that became a conservative perspective. I mean, historically, the conservative side would have been the side that would not want the peasants to own guns. I mean, these are the...
now you're getting way out there now. You're stomping on me a little bit now.
I'm just telling you who's normally been behind the conservative
I'll tell you this.
powers throughout history.
I saw a picture of downtown Wheeling Street, 1937. And everybody had one gun, and most people had two guns. And you know what? I envision that was probably one of the most polite places on the planet. Because, now don't get me wrong, if everybody started openly carrying a gun, I would expect a couple weeks of maybe a little chaos, and a few good people might get winged in the process. But you know what? If we followed our true Constitution, the right to keep and bear arms, and carried those guns with us out in the open everywhere we went, I bet that guy that gave me a rude gesture on the highway the other day, I bet he wouldn't do that. Because he'd know I'd have a gun with me.
Well, I mean, you're really killing your own argument with that kind of an example. But the guy that's casing your house at night is going to think twice. And there's actually research out there, and you don't hear about it much. But there's actually research out there that, I mean, if you look at what that ties in gun ownership with lower crime rates, look at what happened after the hurricanes.
Right.
I mean, I think there was one incident, a couple incidents of looting in Santa Rosa County, a few more, but not many in Escambia. And then you compare that to New Orleans.
Right. Where they were actually going in trying to take guns.
They were taking them.
Right.
They were taking them. And I mean, I think that speaks for itself.
I always remember, and it's funny how things stick in your mind, but there was gasoline shortages. It was causing a lot of problems. Tempers were flaring and all that. And even in '73, I was shocked that ever made TV. It was actually on TV. There was a gas station in Escambia County. They were having so many problems with either, i.e. people trying to steal gas or cutting line and all this kind of stuff. The owner of the station strapped his guns on, and there was videotape of him pumping gas into automobiles, and he was strapping a weapon.
Yeah.
Even in '73, that shocked me. We seem to forget that we've had that right since we've become a nation.
Yeah.
To keep and bear arms.
Right.
And there's just always.
Old Plaxico Burress.
Right.
Just went to jail. I mean, he shot himself accidentally. And if he hadn't suffered enough, he goes to jail for something that's clearly unconstitutional. It's illegal for them to send him to jail. I mean, you could actually call him Plaxico Burress. You could actually call him a political prisoner. if you were going to go extreme on it.
It's I just you know, it's very important. I believe it is what keeps us safe.
It keeps
at our
people
house.
honest.
It keeps us safe at our house.
Yes.
It keeps us safe in our state.
Right.
I mean, for goodness sakes, when you go back to the concealed weapons permit, where it was finally made a little bit easier in the state of Florida to get a concealed weapons permit, violent crime with firearms dropped 65% the first year that it was enacted, because the bad guys didn't know who was carrying and who wasn't.
And they're looking for a victim. They're not looking for somebody who's going to put up a fight. And this is what this mayor's group, one of the things they want to do, is they want to get rid of the reciprocity between states who have concealed carry permits available.
You know, I just,
so you basically can't go from state to state with the concealed weapon.
and that goes back to too much government control again.
Well, I'll agree with you on that.
You know, if I have a permit to start out with, I don't need a permit to have a gun with me.
Right.
Let's make that very clear.
Right.
In the United States of America,
I agree with you. It's in the Constitution.
I do not need a permit to have a gun.
Right.
But then to backdoor me and say that there's not, I can't go from this state to that state with a gun, you're definitely stomping. You have burnt up my constitutional rights now.
Yes.
Now look, I understand if I have a .50 caliber mounted on the roof of my Jeep, fully loaded, ready to go, I understand somebody pulling me over and wanting to have a conversation with me. But the fact that I have a firearm or a long gun in my trunk or in the vicinity of where I'm sitting, as long as, if I get pulled over for a speed ticket, as long as I obey what the officer says and I inform him when he walks up to the door, I just hold my driver's license up and I say, I want you to know there's firearms in this vehicle. That should be good enough.
Yeah.
But they're backdooring us on that. They're trying to break down and cause all kind of problems. And
it's, I mean, it's right there in the Constitution.
I mean, look, the government does a lot to us now that we don't like. Imagine what they can do to us if they're not fearful of a revolution.
That's true.
And if you want to talk about revolutions for a minute, let's look at the September 11th Tea Party in Washington, D.C. It was full north, south, east, and west, all around the reflected pool. Reports of some of the roads blocked, impassable for the people that's up there. That's what the government fears. And if they take your guns and if they take your rights to peaceably assemble for a redress of grievances.
Right. Which in their case included handing out billions of dollars to AIG executives.
Right.
Who I guarantee you are helping Bloomberg in his quest to take our guns away.
Right.
I don't want to sound too crazy. But
they just, government has too much power, and you know, I'm gonna say it again, ladies and gentlemen. We need it. Be quiet this time. We do need to take back our government. We need to have people in there that will make intelligent, rational decisions that don't have hidden agendas. I would like a workable government. And I'm talking about right here in my county too. I'm not talking about at the state and the federal level. That goes without saying. But we need to have people in office that are interested in the community, not in what they can get from government by getting elected to office.
Well, we were talking about using the system as it stands. The system's designed with checks and balances, with the citizen ultimately having the top check.
Well, that's what they say.
Well, we were talking about that, and we were talking about how we've got a case right here in this area where one of those checks is sort of become a weak point, and that's the state's attorney.
Right. Yeah, and look, just...
And this is the person who prosecutes crimes.
Right.
So in other words, I have a complaint about, let's say, some kind of corruption, and you take it to the state's attorney's office, and that person who's elected decides whether or not to go after, investigate, prosecute that crime. And we know that at some point the Florida...
Well, a politician doesn't like to go after a politician.